This is a team building activity that can take as short as 10 minutes or as much as a half an hour. It's called geometry. So first of all, the tools you'll need are some blindfolds or some scarves. If you don't have any of that, you can just have people close their eyes, but that as well as some rope. I would suggest this thick or thicker. As thick as a climbing rope is just fine, but I wouldn't say much thinner than this. Definitely not some string or yarn. So what you're going to do is essentially have them make a shape, a few different shapes without any visuals. The learning that they're getting from this is consensus building, having trust in one another, inclusion, not having people be left out, and the accuracy or precision in reaching a goal. And so in terms of the rope length, I'd recommend somewhere between 40 and 100 feet. And here are the rules when you're explaining. First, sometimes it's fun to be like, who loves geometry? Who loves math? And like one or two people will raise their hands. Be like, okay, you're going to shine in this. And so the rules are that everyone must be involved. You can make up some story along the way as to once they create the shape, it's going to solve some certain problem or whatever. But everyone must be involved. They can have no visuals, but you're going to have your eyes open the whole time to make sure everybody's staying safe and really make sure that no one's like about to run in to any wall or table or anything like that. The rules are also that their hands can slide along the rope, but they can't leave the rope. And they must have consensus before taking their blindfolds off to check if they got it right. And so the first thing you want to do is tie a really good knot in the rope so that it's a loop that's not going to get undone. And you're going to place it somehow on the ground, maybe in a long, what do you want to call it? Oval. And then, so you place it on the ground, ask everybody before they put their blindfolds down and on, to maybe have their blindfolds up on their forehead. Pick up the rope. Well, you can do it in a couple different ways. Pick up the rope so everybody's holding on to it in one place and then put their blindfolds on. If that's too much and too confusing, ask them to stand along the oval, get their blindfolds in place, and then nobody can see, and then just squat down and pick up a piece of the rope. Okay, so there we go. So first, the easiest is tell them once. Don't tell them what the shape they're going to make before they are visually impaired. Then you tell them, okay, get in a circle. That's it. And then once they do it, they have to build consensus to see if they think they've done it. And then they take off their blindfolds and they're like, oh, how funny, how we did it or whatever. Yeah, okay, great. And then level up, right? Okay, was that easy enough? Do you think you can make it a little bit harder? Okay, great. So everyone blindfolds back on. You can even set the rope back down in the same kind of oval if you want to start from scratch. And then it's now a rectangle. Now, the nice thing about a rectangle is easier than a square because two long sides, two short sides, they don't have to all be even. Depending on the competence of the group, you could be like, okay, great, now let's debrief. Or if that was really easy for them, then next would be an equilateral triangle, meaning that each of the three sides are exactly the same length. And then if they really get that, and it's common that a group will get some of that stuff really easily. Oh, also because I would recommend 10 people or fewer for this activity. Then the last is a star. A star or perhaps a W. You can pick a letter or you can pick a Z. So that's the whole thing. How they often will do it is they have people who are the certain angles, like so, right? We know that Katie is a corner and Charisse is a corner and Ryan is a corner, and they're like talking like that. Another way that they often do it is they will think they're kind of equidistant, and then they take like 3 steps together into the middle to see if they're like equally 3 steps far or close. That's another way they sometimes do it. Sometimes they get everybody shimmy down to one side together, and then they try and fold the rope, or like somebody measures out, like that's 10 feet, that's 10 feet, and then place people along the way. In terms of debriefing, some of my favorites just in general, but that work for this one, is who here had some feelings? I'll often start like that. Great, what feelings did you have? Name some feelings. And people may start to try and describe, and then if you can say, okay, so it sounds like the feeling was this, yes? It's really important as leaders to be able to identify our feelings. What other feelings did you have? And it's great if some were like frustrated and some were like fun, and so then you get to pull on those. Tell me why, tell me why, tell me why, say more. Then after that, you can even do, okay, describe your experience. If someone's like frustrated, okay, great, describe it. Then another question, what worked or helped you to be successful, do you think? And then people will kind of popcorn around. And then you as a facilitator, feel free to add on, right, to help them to feel good or successful. Oftentimes groups want to know how they compare in terms of other groups. So if they did something with that was great, feel free to let them know, because then they feel bonded and good. Then to add in, what would you do differently next time? Now that you've had the first experience, first is often the worst, right? And we have a lot to learn. And get at what's your learning edge, what got exposed. I often with team building like to say, they say how we do anything is how we do everything. So what happened for you? Did you check out? Did you get overly animated? Was it really fun and exciting? Were you wanting to rush through it? Were you wishing the group would have slowed down? All of those kinds of things. And so then saying essentially, so what did you learn? What did you take away? What did you learn? That's the whole thing. Good luck.